What if I told you that one man's betrayal of his own country might have prevented World War III? That a KGB colonel's secret defection to Britain didn't just change the Cold War. It literally saved millions of lives. This is the story of the most dangerous double agent in history. A man who risked everything to stop nuclear apocalypse. But here's what makes this tale truly incredible. He was never supposed to escape alive. I've been investigating Cold War espionage cases, but nothing prepared me for the true story of Oleg Gordievsky, the Soviet spy who became Britain's greatest asset. What you're about to hear isn't just another spy story. This is about how one man's crisis of conscience changed the course of world history. From his recruitment in Copenhagen to his heart-stopping escape from Moscow, every detail reads like the most impossible fiction. But first, you need to understand why this story matters more today than ever before. The year is 1974, Copenhagen, Denmark. While most KGB officers see their foreign postings as career opportunities, Oleg Gordievsky is experiencing something else entirely, a complete ideological awakening. Unlike his colleagues, who remained isolated in Soviet diplomatic circles, Gordievsky immersed himself in Western culture. He devoured banned literature, observed democratic freedoms, and witnessed prosperity that simply didn't exist back home. But the breaking point came with Prague's Spring in 1968, when Soviet tanks rolled into Czechoslovakia to crush democratic reforms. Gordievsky watched in horror. He privately cursed his own government, knowing Danish intelligence was listening to his bugged phone calls. This wasn't accident, it was a signal. Enter Richard Bromhead, MI6's Copenhagen station chief. What started as casual encounters at a badminton court evolved into the most audacious recruitment in Cold War history. 2 lunches, 8 months of cat-and-mouse games, and finally, the question that changed everything. Would you be prepared to share information with British intelligence? With those words, Sunbeam was born, the code name for Britain's most valuable spy. For the next decade, Gordievsky didn't just spy for Britain, he became their window into the soul of the Soviet system. Operating from the Soviet embassy in Copenhagen, Gordievsky systematically exposed KGB operations across Scandinavia. Microfilm hidden in his clothing, documents smuggled out during lunch breaks, names, operations, and strategic plans, all flowing directly to MI6. His recall to Moscow in 1978 could have ended everything. Back in the heart of Soviet power, watched by his own colleagues, Gordievsky went dark. But MI6 had a plan, Operation Pimlico, 1982, the ultimate prize. Posted to London as a senior KGB officer, Gordievsky now had access to the highest levels of Soviet intelligence. But he also walked into the most dangerous period of the Cold War. Soviet paranoia reached fever. Pitched with Operation Ryan, a massive intelligence operation convinced that NATO was planning a first-strike nuclear attack. It was fiction, but Soviet leadership believed it was real. Gordievsky's intelligence about Soviet nuclear fears may have prevented accidental war during the 1983 Able Archer exercises. By 1985, Gordievsky had reached the pinnacle, acting KGB resident in London, Britain's man at the very top of Soviet intelligence. Then everything went wrong. Enter Aldrich Ames, a CIA officer drowning in debt and married to a woman with expensive tastes. In June 1985, he sold out over 20 Western intelligence assets to the Soviets for $1.8 million. Gordievsky's name was on that list. May 16, 1985. A telegram arrives at the London embassy. Gordievsky is summoned back to Moscow for consultations. Standard procedure. Oddly, everything about this recall screamed danger. Gordievsky faced an impossible choice. Defect immediately to safety, or return to Moscow and risk everything for one final intelligence coup. He chose duty over safety, a decision that nearly cost him his life. Within hours of arriving in Moscow, Gordievsky knew he was blown. His apartment had been searched. His career was terminated. Worst of all, he was drugged and interrogated for 5 hours with truth serum. Narrator continues. But somehow, despite their suspicions, the KGB didn't arrest him. They had suspicions but no concrete proof. This gave Gordievsky one last desperate chance. What happened next became the most daring rescue. Operation in Cold War history. Operation Pimlico. July 16th, 1985. Outside, a Moscow bakery at exactly 7:30 p.m. A man in grey clothing carries a Safeway plastic bag. Across the street, an MI6 officer walks past eating a Mars bar, carrying a green Harrods bag. Brief eye contact, no words. The signal is given. The plan was intricate: overnight train to Leningrad, another train to the Baltic coast, a bus toward the Finnish border, all while KGB surveillance watched his every move back in Moscow. Saturday afternoon, July 20th, deep in the forest near the Finnish border, two MI6 officers arrive in diplomatic vehicles. Their cover story, a weekend shopping trip to Helsinki with the sick wife needing medical treatment. 5 separate checkpoints. At the second-to-last barrier, disaster strikes. The guards bring out sniffer dogs. If they detect Gordievsky hidden in the car boot, it's over. Caroline Ascot, one of the MI6 officers, makes a split-second decision. She offers the sniffer dog an imported cheese and onion crisp, a scent the Russian dog had never encountered. Then, in a stroke of genius, she changes her baby's dirty diaper right next to the car, creating such a foul smell that the dog retreats in disgust. They made it. Against impossible odds, Operation Pimlico succeeded. The highest-ranking KGB officer in history had been exfiltrated from the heart of the Soviet Union. But the story doesn't end with Gordievsky's escape. His impact on world history was just beginning. Gordievsky's intelligence helped Western leaders understand Soviet paranoia about nuclear war, leading to policy changes that reduced tensions. His insights shaped Reagan and Thatcher's approach to the Soviet Union during the final years of the Cold War. The price was enormous. 6 years separated from his wife and daughters. When they were finally reunited after the Soviet collapse, the marriage couldn't survive the strain. The man who helped save the world lost his family in the process. Today, at 83, Gordievsky lives in British protection, still under threat from Russian intelligence. The Salisbury poisonings and other attacks on former agents serve as constant reminders that his courage came with a lifetime price. This is more than just a Cold War spy story. This is about the power of individual conscience to change the course of history. One man's decision to betray his country's government but remain loyal to humanity may have prevented nuclear war. In today's world of international tensions and nuclear threats, Gordievsky's story reminds us how close we can come to the brink and how individual courage can pull us back. If this incredible true story captivated you, hit that like button now and subscribe with notifications on, because there are dozens more classified stories from the Cold War that will blow your mind. Drop a comment and tell me, what shocked you most about Gordievsky's story? The recruitment, the escape, or the personal sacrifice? I read every single comment. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.